This is AKKO's new Hall Effect keyboard, the mod 007BHE. If you don't know who is AKKO, they are a well-known company in the custom keyboard scene, and they offer some very high quality mechanical keyboards, switches and keycaps with some very competitive price points. In the package you get this very sleek looking keyboard in an all aluminum case with the brass weight on the bottom. Then you get a pretty nice coiled rubber cable and the essential tools with the keyboard. You also get a complimentary keycap set which you can choose yourself as far as I know. I got this pretty nice looking double shot PBD Starry Night keycap set in an OSA profile, which is a bit higher profile than a cherry profile I'm accustomed to. I swapped the keycaps at some point to a PBD set I got for a very cheap price, which has that familiar cherry keycap profile. The keyboard has some really nice features which separates it from most of the all Hall Effect keyboards, like a 75% layout with the cool knob which you can use to adjust your PC's volume or the brightness of the RGB. The case is a really high quality all aluminum case with a brass weight on the bottom, and the keyboard weighs a whopping 2 kilograms. The keyboard is gasket mounted, which basically means that the PCB is installed on top of rubber gaskets, which then makes the typing have a more dampened sound and feel, and it makes this keyboard quieter at the same time. The switches are AKKO's own Hall Effect switches, the cream yellow magnetic switches which operate with the same principle as the lacquer switches of the Wooting, so there are no metallic leaves inside the switches, and the keyboard reads the travel distance of the magnets to determine the switch actuation. One really interesting feature of this board is that you can also swap mechanical switches to it if you at some point prefer the standard mechanical keyboard feel and don't care about the custom actuation and the rapid trigger the Hall Effect technology offers. And the keyboard is also wireless with the hefty battery inside, so this is actually the first Hall Effect keyboard which also offers wireless capabilities. Pretty neat. Then the board of course offers RGB. Lots of RGB. Then let's talk about the typing feel. Because the keyboard is gasket mounted, it offers a softer typing feel compared to the Wooting, but the steel plate that it has is pretty stiff, so there is not much flex when typing. The switches have a really nice factory lubing, mainly on the lower part of the spring, and I don't personally feel the need for lubing. Some switches are a little scratchy here and there, but those who are more picky about that can open these up and apply their own lube to them. The switches have an actuation force of 50 newtons, so it's a bit heavier than the Gatorans on the Wooting, but it's not crazy heavy by any means. These just feel more like the traditional linear mechanical switch than the lacquer switches. The stabilizers are also nicely lubed, and I can't find any rattling on them whatsoever. So AKKO seems to know how to deliver a really nice mechanical keyboard right out of the box. Here is a quick typing test to hear how it sounds. Then let's talk about what it can do and what it cannot do. In the software you can set the switch actuation to your liking, ranging from 0.2mm all the way to 3.8mm. Compared to Wooting 0.1mm, you can't get this as sensitive as that, but I can't tell the difference of 0.1mm in actual use at all. A rapid trigger seems to work very well, and side strafing shows that the movement stops instantly when I depress the littlest amount I've set the keyboard to do. Then there's also dynamic keystrokes, which I personally don't use, but with them you can set up a one key to do a bunch of other things at certain actuation distances, like on the Wooting for example. And the keyboard is, yeah, it's wireless like I said, and you can set up the wireless pretty much. Just put this dongle inside your PC, then you need to take off a one keycap, and right there is there's a switch that you need to put on a certain position and you will be wireless. Also, they claim that the input lag in wireless mode is very low, but sadly I can't test it because it requires optimum tech level test rig with a high-speed camera, which I don't have. But yeah, let's take their word for granted this time. But then, what it can't do. Yeah, for your Apex movement enthusiasts out there, I'm sad to say that currently super gliding on this keyboard seems to be practically impossible on 240 Hz. I troubleshooted this with AKKO and they confirmed that on wired mode the scan rate is around 8 milliseconds, which means that even on 1000 Hz polling, the keyboard updates its switch rate in every 8 milliseconds, which is higher than the 1 frame time window in which you are supposed to separate the jump and crouch key. I'm pretty consistent with super gliding on my Wooting, and on Super Glide Trainer I usually hit a consistency of around 75% at 240 Hz. But with this, it's basically 0% or something like 18%, which is very low because of this higher scan rate. And compared to the Wooting scan rate is under 1 millisecond with tachyon mode enabled, which makes super gliding very easy to do on it if you take your time to practice. On wireless mode, the scan rate is supposed to be around 5 milliseconds, so super gliding should be possible on wireless mode if you play at 144 Hz. And yeah, I tested it. It's somewhat consistent, but yeah, personally I can't play at 144 Hz just to be able to super glide. AKKO is however very keen on resolving this issue, and I've been talking with AKKO for a few weeks about possible solutions like a turbo mode for certain keys, and it should be possible. So we'll see how they continue to develop the software and the firmware of the board. But yeah, other than that, the keyboard is just amazing, and that scan rate issue is basically only an issue if you are an Apex movement enthusiast and want to super glide. In other games, this is not an issue at all. The build quality of the board is just really impressive for the $199 you pay for it. If you don't play Apex, and even if you do but don't care about super gliding, this board basically has everything to offer. For games like Overwatch, CS, Valorant for example, this can offer you that counter-strafing capability the Wooting offers. Also, the typing feel is just miles ahead of the Wooting at stock, and it has that 75% layout many people have asked Wooting to do for ages. It even has this cool metallic knob on top which you can adjust the volume with, which is surprisingly handy in my experience. But if you want that cutting edge technology, go with the Wooting, hands down. But if you appreciate things like typing feel and wireless capabilities more and want a really solid metallic case from the get-go, I can recommend this AKKO Mod 007BHE. But that's it for this one, and thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Goodbye.